Hey mamas, and welcome to the Entering Motherhood podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Marie Bilger, a wife, mom of two, VBAC mama, and doula. Join us every episode to learn from professionals, special guests, and moms just like you, ensuring that you know what you need to know and discover things that you didn't know before. I believe in you. Let's doula this, and let's navigate the transition of entering motherhood together. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Entering Motherhood podcast. In this episode of Entering Motherhood, we chat with lactation consultant Emily Swann. She shares her unconventional journey from working at a tattoo shop and surfing in California to becoming a labor and delivery nurse, then an IBCLC. Emily discusses her personal breastfeeding struggles, the importance of individualized lactation support, and how intuition and mindset can truly shape our motherhood experience. She reflects on her own two births, the value of community, and offers advice for new moms to trust themselves, set intentions, and minimize any distractions. Emily encourages mothers to cultivate confidence and connection with their babies for a more empowered and enjoyable motherhood experience. She is currently expecting her third baby now, and it's just a wealth of knowledge. So I know that you're going to enjoy this episode and get so much out of it. So with that, let's get this episode started. Hello, and welcome to Entering Motherhood. I'm super happy to have you here today and get this conversation started. But before we do, can you go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit for the listeners?
Sure. My name's Emily Swann. I'm an IBCLC. I have two kiddos and one very soon on the way, and became a lactation consultant after I had my firstborn. I was originally a labor and delivery nurse and just felt a calling to do something more holistic.
Yeah. So as a labor and delivery nurse, how did you get started in that? Let's kind of backtrack and go into when you were starting that.
Sure. I honestly think it's funny. I was living in California. I was working at a tattoo shop. I was surfing every day. And I just was like, oh, I guess I should do something more, productive. And my grandma was a nurse, and I was like, I'll just apply to nursing school. And so then I went to nursing school, and the whole time I was like, I do not like this. This is not for me. And I was really good at it. So I kept going. And then at the end, they were like, we have to apply for a job now. And I was like, the only thing I like is babies. So I'll work in the NICU. And my teachers were like, oh, everyone wants to work in the NICU. Nobody gets the job. Well, I was the only person in my class who got the job. And I was like, well, I guess I'll work in the NICU then. But then it was so sad. And so I was like, I can't work here. It's too sad. So I switched to labor and delivery, which I thought would be happier. But honestly, that's funny to look back on because the NICU babies all come from labor and delivery too. So equally as sad. But I fell into it. And then it was funny when I was there, I was like, even though I love birth, it was so not the environment for me. So it was definitely funny to be one day woke up and what am I doing here? What is my role here?
Yeah. What a wild journey to go from, a tattoo shop and surfing to then more professional labor and delivery, nursing. Wow.
Yeah.
That's such a crazy journey of a transition. And,
I
used to be an engineer, and then I got into doula work. And so when people hear that, they're like, how did you make that pivot? And it's if you just have a calling or an intuition to, navigate and go somewhere else and do something, it's just follow it, see where it goes, see what happens. And then it all leads you to where you are. So you were working in labor and delivery when you had your first then?
Yes. And I was planning a home birth, but I was so immersed in the labor and delivery world and my midwife even said to me, it's really hard to turn that part of your brain off and turn this. And I was like, oh, it'll be fine. So it ended up not being fine. I ended up transferring. I had a really, really long labor. It was really long. It was really painful would be the word I would use to describe it now. I mean, back then, not so much now, but so I really felt like a breath of fresh air when I got to the hospital on day 4 of being in labor. I was like, my friends are all working. They got me an epidural. Everyone took really good care of me. So it was kind of funny, thinking at the time that I was prepping for this home birth, but fully spending 36 hours a week in a high risk labor and delivery unit. So it didn't really like mesh at all. And so I'm totally not surprised now that that's where we ended up with her.
Yeah. Wow, that's wild. And so then afterwards, how was your breastfeeding journey?
It was very hard. And now that I work in lactation, I think there are a lot of women that go into breastfeeding like, we'll just see what happens. We'll try our best. And I don't think that's right, wrong, or indifferent or the other way. But I was like, if I don't breastfeed, I will not survive. Like that, it was like very important to me. I had to breastfeed and it was just not going well. And it was so stressful. I tell this story a lot, but on day 11 of my daughter's life, my husband felt like he had to do something. So I was pretty much, I think, in another room crying into a pillow because I knew like I'd been trying to feed her. It was so stressful. She wouldn't latch. So I took a minute, like go cry, and then I was going to come back. And he gave her a bottle, thinking like, I'll just help Emily out. And I was like just devastated. Like it felt like a part of me like had died a little. And I was like, you can't do that. Like I know this looks horrible, but I have to breastfeed. There's so much now that I understand about the situation that I didn't then. She was a vacuum delivery, so she had it like can cause cranial impairment with that suck, swallow, breathe impulse. And so she was just not, she would get on, but she wouldn't do anything. And then she would get frustrated and she would cry and cry and cry. And then I would cry. And we did that for probably 3 or 4 months of just kept trying, kept trying, kept trying. And I saw so many lactation consultants and each were helpful in their own way, but I just felt like I wasn't really figuring out like what the real problem was for so long. And when I met my mentor now, I think Sully was 4 months old. So yes, because she was on the reflux medicine at this point. There was like reflux involved. There was obvious like body tension that I wasn't aware of at the time. And my mentor was so helpful. She showed me exactly why like the tongue wasn't functioning the way it was supposed to. She really showed me what was going on, which appealed to my kind of nurse brain. I was like, thank you, thank you. And that was the first step. And then she asked me like, hey, would you be interested in becoming a lactation consultant? And I was like, no, this is horrible. But she pushed me a little and I'm so glad she did. She ended up kind of, when you become a lactation consultant, you have to do the online like education, but then you have to do a mentorship. And so she took me with her for about a year. And it was very interesting, like coinciding with like the improvement in my daughter's breastfeeding and just the colic got better. Everything started getting better while I was learning all of this stuff at the same time. So it was a really cool journey to kind of do that with her.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you say, like you met with so many other lactation consultants and it just wasn't getting to that like root cause of what was really happening. And I think that, happens quite frequently when we're kind of like tossed into these different scenarios, or maybe there's somebody that became a lactation consultant, but they don't have like a deep, rooted understanding of all the different things that can kind of be going on, or they're just kind of like taking their education, or maybe their mentor wasn't as knowledgeable in different things. And it's really kind of putting people in these like, well, then I must be doing something wrong, or, this can't be solved. And I just have to, switch out and do formula, or this isn't working for me. What can you kind of say to that when there's people that are maybe getting one lactation consultant and then it just doesn't work and then they're just already done with it?
Yeah, so now that I am a lactation consultant, there is so much nuance. So first of all, not like you said, not every IBCLC is the same. We take a very basic like educational course, and then all of our training is with our mentor. So it's very mentor dependent. If you're in an area where there's not a lot of lactation consultants, it's more probable that you will have someone that doesn't have the same skills. There's also so much continuing education that we can do, but it's not required. So there are a lot of lactation consultants that do pursue that, and then there are some that don't. So not to say that people are good, bad, right, or wrong. I also do fully believe as a lactation consultant that telling a mom to do more skin to skin and just keep trying is kind of a good answer no matter what. So it's like you don't have to be the best IBCLC in the world to give that advice. And now that I'm further in my mothering journey and in my career as well, I just think there is also a level of personal responsibility. And I know that that's hard for moms to hear sometimes because we really want to put that like, parental leave in the United States is terrible and we don't have good support and we don't have XYZ. And yes, that's true. But like I said, there is a level of personal responsibility where I mean, I went 3 months of every time I tried to feed this baby, I got sick to my stomach. I felt so anxious because would she latch? Wouldn't she? And if she wasn't, then she would be crying and crying and crying. And then she would have all this reflux after. And so there is a level of just like, I am going to breastfeed. Like, I'm going to find the answer and I'm going to do it. I've never met a mom, honestly, that says that doesn't then go on to breastfeed. Not to invalidate some women's experiences, but there is just that also that level of no one's coming to save you. Even the best lactation consultant in the world is not going to be with you at 2 a.m. when you have to feed them on your own. So it's just kind of a complex situation. I do think that overall, we are doing moms a disservice in the professional industry. It's either we don't say enough, like we're just like, you can do it, everything's great, and we're invalidating that they're saying there's a problem. Or on the other side, and this is happening a lot more in the holistic community, is we're doing too much. We're like, oh my God, like the breastfeeding will be going mostly fine. And we'll be like, oh my gosh, they're tongue tie and they're this and they're that. And now you have to go to CST and the chiropractor and get the frenectomy. And we just send them on this like rampage of being so anxious when nothing was wrong. Like, I mean, yes, of course, sometimes we professionally I can see, but does sometimes it help for me to tell a mom that things are going mostly well, but XYZ is a problem? No, because then that's all she's going to be thinking about. So sometimes I don't say anything. And I teach my student that too. It's like, we have to know when is it appropriate to share that information and when is it better to say, you're doing a great job, like keep doing it. Breastfeeding is also the best oral motor exercise for a baby. So as they continue to breastfeed, they continue to work out the issue. So we know that. And so sometimes it is helpful to just say less and not do so much diagnosing and put so much of our ego and our credentials and our education on this poor mom and her poor baby that are like just trying to do the best they can to breastfeed. So definitely a balance. And I think I've honestly over the last year trended to saying less. So even though I felt it was helpful with my daughter for Melissa, my lactation consultant, to show me exactly what was wrong and blah, 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 I still don't actually think that's the answer necessarily, because most women don't have the same background as me where they want to know that. Then it just stresses them out so much to think like, oh, there's something wrong.
Yeah, that's so important too. And like, it's good to know that when you're working with clients, you are taking it that individual route because it isn't just this cookie cutter process. It's okay, how does this mom want to receive the information as well? And what's going to be most beneficial for their lifestyle or how they learn? Or, like you said, like doing too much could be counterproductive. And so in all of this, how long were you doing this work before your second came along? And then how was that journey different than your first?
Yeah. So I think I officially became an IBCLC when Soleil was 1 and she nursed for 2 years. So I had like a whole year of like wonderful breastfeeding. I had also started my body work that I then created into my course at that time. And that was like really, really moving the needle a lot more than even the other stuff I was doing with Melissa. Then I got pregnant somewhere in there and I just had this totally different experience. Most second time moms do, I think. But a totally different experience of just like, this is all going to be fine. Like I've got this. Like with help, of course, but like I healed her. Like she is so much better. And she had all these other issues. Like I ended up deciding not to do a frenectomy, which is Melissa was like, it looks like a tongue tie, it looks like a lip tie, whatever. But I ended up not doing the frenectomy. I did all this other work. And for about a year, she had been like sleeping with her mouth open and snoring. And she had these dark circles under her eyes. And she was still having the reflux and still kind of like colicky, even as a 1-year-old. And we got like, she got better. And I could see clearly that like the work I had been doing was working. And so I just felt so much peace of like, the second baby is going to be a breeze. Like all of this is going to be, I have all the tools now, which is why I made my bodywork course. Cause I think it does make moms feel more confident to have some tools, like just to have a thing to do to make the situation better. I ended up they really don't know what it was. I think just for simplicity, they called it viral meningitis, but it wasn't even that because the test was negative. So something happened. I got really sick at 35 weeks pregnant. It was like 8 days of just extremely high fever. I was planning a home birth, obviously, and Like, I just believed intuitively that birth wasn't going to be painful this time. But on day like 8 of my fever, I wasn't feeling the baby move. I hadn't eaten. And so I went and my water broke, and I was like, I'm just going to go do my natural birth at the hospital. But he's 35 weeks. We're sick. Like, just in case we're going to the NICU, like, I'm just going to do it there. And so I didn't let anyone touch me, which was so funny. They just looked very like concerned about like what the situation, like I was clearly very sick. And I was like, no one's allowed to touch me. I just want to be here, like just in case it comes out kind of not well, and which he did. And yeah, but it was a beautiful birth, like not painful at all. I had totally like manifested this pain-free birth. It was just me, my husband, and then the midwife who I knew. I had worked with her when I worked there. And so it was really a special birth. But then after that, kind of divulged, like he had to go to the NICU. But it was still, honestly, I think I had done so much preparation mentally, which is where I try and remind moms now the prep work comes from. Like, it's not so much a physical thing, and it's not about reading all the books. It really is this like mental and emotional and spiritual preparation. And so I just did like what I had to do, like next right step. I went to the NICU, and he had like oxygen, feeding tube, IV, all the stuff. And they didn't know that I used to be a NICU nurse, but I was like, hi, it's time to take all this off. And they were like, no, like, we can't do that. And I was like, it's coming off. So, because I knew he couldn't breastfeed with it was like bubble CPAP is what it's called. I was like, he's not allowed to breastfeed with that. So I took all this stuff off. He did great. So then I was like, okay, I guess we could have stayed home, but still better safe than sorry, in my opinion. And he breastfed so fantastically for a 35-week baby. Like, I just knew, I was like, we're going to be fine. All of this is fine. So we went home and we had such a beautiful like postpartum experience. He was the easiest baby. He still is. And he really was just like a healing baby for our family. Like, my daughter even continued to get better. He was obviously an angel. I healed so much through that experience. My husband, it was really cool. We like kind of fell more into our roles, where with my firstborn, I was like, you have to do all these things to be a parent. And then with Bowie, I was like, for 6 months, this baby's just mine. Like, you can like hold him and do all this stuff. And my husband was like, thank God, because it was so stressful the first time, me being like, you try and get her down for a nap when she just didn't want that, you know? So this time we really just leaned into like what was normal and like biological. And we had the easiest, most wonderful experience. So he still is such a fun baby. He's 2 now. And I imagine the same, even better for this next baby, which is, it's really nice to like know intuitively that everything's going to be great.
Yeah. What kind of advice could you give to somebody who isn't quite feeling that intuitive pull, or they want to be more intuitive with the process, but it's not as easily done for them?
Absolutely. I think a big part of it is, and this doesn't mean do or don't get ultrasounds, do or don't see a midwife. It's more like, make sure that like, and I would probably find like a journal or a meditation or some way that you can really physically work on recreating those neural pathways of like, for me to know that things are going to be good with my baby, like what can I do besides relying on the next ultrasound or relying on the next Doppler? Can I get quiet? Can I spend that time before I fall asleep at night, like feeling the baby? Put your hands on your belly, like try and figure out where they are. Even if you're wrong, you don't know you're wrong. So just practice and talk to them, touch them, like, and really try and say like, okay, if you're choosing to get an ultrasound, like I'm choosing to get an ultrasound just because I'm choosing to get an ultrasound. But rather than saying like, I'll know things are all okay once we go get the ultrasound. So that is a really hard thing to do, but it is a practice and it does make motherhood so much easier. And after now all my years of working in this field, I really think the like high anxiety moms are the ones that have the hardest time breastfeeding. Like, just anytime I see, and those are the women that I usually like reserve some information from. Like, if breastfeeding's going mostly well and they're just looking for an issue, I don't tell them that I see a tongue tie or that I see, whatever. I just say, you're doing such a great job. Like, put the phone tracker away, stop timing their sleep, stop counting your output, and just go enjoy your baby. Because the high anxiety, it's what's messing with birth. It's what's messing with postpartum. It's what's ruining the first few years of motherhood that are supposed to be so really simply wonderful and enjoyable. And they're just not for a lot of women. And I think it really is that like hyperfixation on all these little things. So really trying to have that quiet time. With this baby, we opted out of like everything. We don't have a midwife. I've never checked anything. Haven't done any ultrasounds. And it's so crazy because I just know the baby is fine, like, and more than fine, which is such a cool feeling to walk into birth just like, yeah, this is going to be great.
Yeah. So did you find out the gender for your other two?
No,
No.
I didn't find out with either of them, which is,
Yeah.
yeah, my
Did
favorite.
did you have any kind of like inclination of what they were?
With Soli, it's so funny. I was right with Bo for sure, but with Soli, I honestly did know it was a girl, and I think I was really afraid of like having a daughter, of having that
Oh,
of like.
yeah.
So I kept saying he, but deep down, I had picked a girl name. Like I like was like, it's so funny to look back on and like the maturation that comes from becoming a mother, especially in my opinion, mothering a daughter. Everything is just right in my face of like all my character defects, all of the things that I like struggled with my own mother, all these generational things like right in my face. And so it's kind of like a big responsibility sometimes. And I think that's why I was like, no, it's a boy, it's a boy. But I really did know. So
Yeah, that's so
this
interesting.
time.
Yeah, we found out with our first two. We did the blood work for our daughter and we
Mhm.
found out really early, but I knew like as soon as we got pregnant, I was like, it's a girl because I wanted a girl. I wanted that like mother-daughter relationship
Mhm.
so badly. And so we had found out and I was like, I think I would have had almost like that gender disappointment if it wasn't a girl.
Yeah.
And then it was nice to like bond with her in the womb, like knowing that it was a girl. And then we did wait until our first ultrasound with our son to like find out. And then
Mhm.
with this one though, we are not finding out and it has been like such an awesome experience, but like also just having that like is it a boy or is it a girl and like you were saying like that intuition and like I keep on saying like it's a girl because I want a girl. And so that's been really hard to kind of like tap into my intuition when I have like such a preference.
Mhm.
And so like how you were saying like it's like I knew it was a girl but I was like saying he. And so like it is kind of like I'm so curious to see what this one's going to be because it's definitely been like a struggle of like that personal preference versus like what your intuition is like maybe trying to like tap in and tell you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
yeah. So I think like that's a lot of it too. Like how do we kind of decipher between, thoughts that are running through our head or like what our intuition is really kind of trying to tell us?
Yeah, it's such a hard thing to learn, especially like with that highly anxious group of moms. It's like, is it more of an intrusive anxiety related thought or is it intuition? And I just think a lot of it needs to be learned, like taught and learned, which we inherit from our mothers. So like a lot of it's coming from our mothers. And then who are we surrounding ourselves with? I went through a big change after I had Soli around that time when I started my body work on her and started changing as a mother. And I like not in a bad way. There was nothing wrong with the people I was friends with before, but kind of changed my friend group, like my community changed to be more like women that I wanted to be like. So like women that didn't complain about their husbands, women that didn't complain about motherhood, women that like not necessarily were doing everything the same way I was doing it, but like weren't complaining about the baby's sleep. Like there was a lot of like positivity and intuition in like the group of women that I sought out. And that makes a big difference and it was really hard because I had a best friend. She's still my best friend, but like she could tell I was changing. And so it was like either grow with me or we're going to kind of separate. And we really did grow together. But I could totally see a situation too where it's like the pattern is so strong of like complaining about the husband, saying, oh, it's so hard. Motherhood's so hard. I'm not getting a break. I'm not getting what I want, blah, blah, blah. And so recreating that into like a more like what I wanted as a mother, which is like these fruitful conversations. And then it was helpful because then when I do have a feeling of like, is this anxiety or is this intuition? I trust those women probably know the answer with me. Like they know me well enough to give me that response. So I do think some of it's community building. I think some of it's learned. Honestly, at this point, if we don't have like the mother figure, like not that our moms are bad, but like if they're not doing that for us, like there's opportunities to seek out older, wiser women to ask these things. I have like this woman named Amy who has absolutely walked me through some of those things. And I do a lot of that in my like one-on-one containers now with women that sign up. And because I just think some of it has to be learned since we aren't really exposed to it. And the
Yeah.
internet is just going to give you like the worst case scenario every time.
Yeah, I definitely hear that. I mean, if you Google something, it could be like, yeah, like you said, worst case scenario outcome. And it's like, okay, no. And it is like, finding that group of people that can kind of like back you up and say, like, oh no, like this is
Yeah.
more so like how I felt or what was going on, or maybe try this, or just giving you that like confidence to be in that state and how you want to be. And it can be a hard transition of when you're entering motherhood and your viewpoints are changing, and maybe a lot of your friends don't have kids yet, or they're just like in a different lifestyle, or how you were saying, like they're complaining about this and doing this and motherhood sucks. Like, and it's like, I don't want to be in that space anymore. And so
Yeah.
having to like one, realize that, and then two, go out and find people that are going to be more cohesive with how you want to be can be a real struggle. But if you're kind of not doing that work, then you're stuck where you don't want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, there's so much growth that is asked of us when we become moms and as we go through motherhood. And I think there is definitely like some women are like very resistant to it, like very resistant to their time being affected, their body, their change, like everything changing. And then there are some women that really lean into it. And you can really tell now, like now that I've worked with so many women, I can really tell that what the women that are like prepared to like accept the changes and like kind of do the next indicated step for themselves, and the women that are really resistant. And like there is absolutely a contentment level of motherhood that is different between those two groups of women. So that doesn't mean we need to do everything right, but it just means we need to be open to like making those changes. I mean, it was uncomfortable and difficult for me to kind of walk away from an entire group of friends that were great people that loved me and cared for me, and it was like, yeah, you guys haven't done anything wrong, but you're also no longer the like energetic match for me in my like new kind of life I'm making. So it was uncomfortable, but it was definitely the right thing to do.
Yeah. How do you think that plays into the type of clients that you attract as well?
It definitely did. When I first worked as an IBCLC, I got everyone. I mean, you can go and like put your insurance into Lactation Network and it'll be like, here are the people in your area. So I got all kinds of people, but it was so cool when I started getting clear on like what was important to me as a mother. I started attracting clients that were more aligned with not necessarily everything I do, but like more aligned with what I do. At the very least, every single woman that reaches out to me now really wants to breastfeed. So I used to go to a lot of people's homes and I'd be like, do you need permission to formula feed? And they're like, yes, thank God. Okay, thank you. And I'm like, okay, I mean, you have it. But now I never, ever, ever get women like that. So I've definitely niched down. My Instagram has obviously helped. And I like it. And sometimes I feel like I'm in an echo chamber, but also it doesn't serve my time and my expertise. I have like a lot of education now and a lot of experience for me to go try and convert someone who has really truly no interest in breastfeeding, or women that have no interest in actually enjoying motherhood. It's not my job to go out there and spend my time and energy to bring them over to my side. So I just leave them be usually.
Yeah, that's such a like good point. And I think it does kind of like happen just naturally, like as you get more into your field and more into your niche, and specifically like what you want to be like doing and how you want to be serving. And I think it better serves your clients when you know exactly what you want to bring to the table and they're aware of how you can help them and what that looks like. And so I think it's really important for people to be finding that, because then there is those differences and we're each individually finding our groups and people that are blending and meshing well with the type of route that we want to go. Because I mean, if there's somebody who really passionately wants to breastfeed and now they're going to an IBCLC that's like, oh, you know what? Like maybe there are some tongue ties or some issues, and how about you just do a little bit of formula, and then like they start veering down that road. Now somebody who really passionately wanted to could be persuaded. And in those like early initial months postpartum, we are vulnerable and perceptive to be persuaded sometimes in different directions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, and that is why meeting with lactation consultants prenatally is such an important thing to do, like to add to your checklist if you're pregnant, and going into finding someone that you click with ahead of time, let them know ahead of time what your goals are so that when you're in that kind of like more emotional, messier time of postpartum, they already know what your intentions are and they can then be like, when you need it, just power through. Like, you don't need formula. You just need me to hold your hand, kind of.
What do you love most about what you do?
I think I like watching women enjoy breastfeeding, enjoy motherhood, because it's not just about breastfeeding. I mean, breastfeeding is obviously like, I'm not going to sit here on my Instagram ever and talk about the benefits of breastfeeding. It should be so plainly obvious that I don't feel like I should give any energy to that. But the like emotional and spiritual reasons to breastfeed, I think, are my favorite. The connection, the confidence that women get, especially watching women step into like their role as a mother, is just really a cool experience. That's why I created my like next thing, my container, and I have, I think, 13 women in it right now. And over the last few months, they have like completely stepped into a more matriarchal role. And that's just got to be my favorite. It's so cool to watch because when I go to like, I don't go in person anymore to people's homes, but I just remember going and it just looked so dark, like, or I'll get messages on Instagram and it's like, it's so dark. It's so sad. And unfortunately, I think that's a pretty common narrative in society. It's perpetuated. It's fueled by the commercial baby industry. It's fueled by the American Academy of Pediatrics. It's fueled by the formula companies. Like, they want us to have a miserable time. They want us to feel pressure to go back to work. They want all of these things for us because there is money to be made. And unfortunately, over the last 60 to 80 years, they've really done a good job. So now it really has kind of become a common societal narrative. So seeing women step into that, like I said, that has nothing to do with them doing things the way that I do. It's more of like watching them mother and make these decisions with confidence of like, this is what I'm going to do. And I feel good about it. And I just think that's a really cool thing to watch.
Yeah. How often are you seeing first-time moms do that compared to,
I actually am a lot more recently. And I think it is me niching down in my work. I think it is my Instagram. Like, people find my Instagram, they obviously feel some type of way about me. They ask for an appointment. So they already either want what I have or are already trending there. But I saw someone the other day and I was so bummed my student couldn't get on that call. I was like, I just had a call with a first-time mom who is not anxious, who is not freaking out about the supply issue, even though there was literally a supply issue. Like, she was like, it's going to be fine. Like, it was such a cool thing to watch because you could tell she did all this prep work, all the emotional and spiritual prep work in her pregnancy and before her birth. And that is truly, and she must have a wonderful mother. Like, I think that probably plays a role. She must have a good community. But it was a cool thing to see because I think there are more and more of them now. I have one client, she just had her second baby. So I saw her with her first baby a long time ago. And she was the first one that I saw that I was like, she had like a free birth with her first baby. And I was like, how did you do that? And she was like, I don't know. Me and my husband got it. Like, it was really cool. So I wish more women could experience it with their first, but also the journey sometimes comes with that first time mother initiation. So I don't think either is right or wrong. Guarantee my daughter will have that with her first. Like, I am giving that to her. That's freely hers to take. So, the more we do that, the more our, daughters will do that one day too.
Yeah. What do you think this baby is?
I think it's a girl.
Another girl.
I hope so, like you said, but mostly for my daughter's sake. She's desperate for a sister.
Yeah, that's how, like, I'm like, I think my son would be fine, but I think it'd be really cool. Like, I have sisters and I think like that relationship is really fun and this might be our last. So I'm kind of like, I want a sister like for my daughter, but also like, I just love having, I love having children in general, but like,
yeah. I think you're happy either way, but she will definitely be disappointed.
Yeah.
If we have a boy.
Very cool. What would you say to somebody who is like going through this journey of motherhood and they want to breastfeed and maybe this is their first, on top of that too, just like birthing in general and things, like what would you want them to know that maybe you didn't know when you were entering motherhood?
My best advice would be to probably stay off the internet as much as possible. Like, the more time you invest in the internet, the less time you're investing in cultivating that relationship yourself. I mean, biologically, we used to not have the internet, but like we used to really connect deeply with our babies and know them so much more than we do right now when we're pregnant. So I really recommend getting off the internet and start writing things down. Like, what is it that you want? I've been hearing so much recently about not having too many expectations about birth or breastfeeding so that you don't get disappointed. And I think that's ridiculous. Like, I would write down what your perfect situation is and then like marinate on that and bring that. And that doesn't mean it's guaranteed. Birth is obviously very variable, but at least then you know what you want. And I think that sets a really strong intention for motherhood of like, what kind of mom do I want to be? Like, do I want to be the mom that's very responsive? Do I want to be a mom that's very warm and snuggly? Like, what kind of mom do I want to be? And I think we start cultivating that in pregnancy. So rather than wait till you're like 2 months into breastfeeding and you're barely hanging on by a thread, I would start cultivating that now in pregnancy.
What do you kind of like hope for with this new baby coming into the world? And like, is this completing your family or?
No, oh my gosh, I feel like I can have 100 babies. I'll be cut off by menopause, I'm sure. Or by my husband. He'll be like, that's it. My husband was an only child, so I think he just like is like the more the merrier. Like the more babies you want to have. And also we really have kind of, like I said, fallen into our roles where it's like, I'm not saying it's not his choice, but he's never going to tell me no. Like I don't think he'll ever be like, no, we really can't. If I really wanted to, I could keep having babies into perpetuity. I don't love being pregnant. So I could see a situation where when I get older and maybe be like, okay, I'm all done being pregnant. For my birth, I just very, very, very much picture like we don't have a midwife. And so it's just like, I'm going to just go like have a baby and like probably like, because when I was in labor with Bowie, it was very short. It was like under 2 hours.
Oh, wow.
Very short. I just like needed to be alone, in my zone. Like with Sully, I was outsourcing everything still. I had 3 midwives, like a midwife and 2 assistants. My mom was there, which was a huge mistake. My husband, my chiropractor came at one point. Like there were so many people and I like wanted hands on me and like, tell me I'm okay. Like tell me everything. And that made me like, I was so lost, and I don't know why I even expected that to be helpful, but not that like having a midwife or not having a midwife is the answer, but I really truly outsourced. I was like, take this away from me. Take this. I don't want to experience this. It's too painful. And with Bowie, I just really was like, this is what I'm experiencing. Nobody touch me. Nobody look at me. I had to be in a dark room. So I imagine it'll be similar to that and then just call my family in at the end to watch because my daughter's like very, very excited to watch. And then we just all go and tuck into our family bed. I just picture it being very much integrating like a new baby into our family as it, is supposed to be.
Awesome. Well, that's so exciting. And, I know everything's going to go that way and all work out. And it's really cool to hear like your perspective and your journey and how much, I mean, going from a tattoo shop surfing on the beach to where you are now,
Yeah.
it's such a range. And it's really awesome when like we see that like intertwined with motherhood and how our journeys have really shaped and changed because of that.
Yeah, definitely.
Very cool. Well, where can we find you, get in contact with you? I know that you are nearing the end of things, so I'm sure things are shifting around and adjusting and changing. But what do you have going on other than baby number 3 coming?
I have my Instagram is the love of breastfeeding, and I've been like backing away a little bit there, just like, energy wise. My course is always available. It's in my bio link and it's very self-explanatory on my page what like babies and toddlers that serves. My one-on-one container is closed until January when I'll let more people in and my appointments are closed. But always my course is there and that's pretty much the foundation of my work too. There's a lot of good information in there. There's a lot of women in that program. So that's just kind of evergreen whenever anyone wants to check it out.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and giving us some insight and chatting with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, mamas, so much for listening. Remember, you are a rock star. I believe in you. Let's doula this. Let's crank it up a notch and let's kick it into high gear together. Hit that subscribe button, share this episode with a friend, message me, email me, call me, beat me. You know how to reach me. We're doing this, mamas. I am so excited to catch you here next week. This is your one-stop go-to place for helping you find the resources you need to make the best choices for you and your family during pregnancy, birth, and most importantly, postpartum. See you later, mamas.